What's up, everybody? My name is Marcos. This is my co-host Trevor, the Runners On podcast. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different episode. The last two that we've put out have been interviews with figures around the Sacramento area, but we're going to talk a little bit closer to home today in regards to Sacramento expansion baseball and what the bid's going to look like. So to get right into it, right off the gate, there is some big news that we have in terms of property investment groups. Fulcrum Property Group is the organization that's going to be responsible for spearheading the operation of getting an expansion team. Mark Friedman, I believe, is the chairman for Fulcrum Property Group. He's going to be the man responsible for land agreements, purchases, and setting up the foundation necessary for us to get an expansion team. I know Mark Friedman was largely responsible for the DOCA renovations done in the downtown Commons area. Put a lot of time and effort into it. The area actually looks pretty nice. So there is some proof of concept in terms of the work that he's done.
Yeah, that definitely is.
And also in regards to that, they do have a bit of a special board between the Sacramento mayor and West Sacramento's mayor, formerly Martha Guerrero, but I believe she's now running for Senate. So I'm not too sure if she's still going to stay on the board or not in terms of that work. But Kevin McCarty is going to be an honorary member on that board in terms of getting it done.
Well, right now we know Sacramento has $800 million invested in land/private investment, with over $1 billion coming from West Sacramento and the TIF. If you want to explain kind of what TIF is.
Yeah, so TIF, I'm sure, has been used before in other developments of Sacramento, but in terms of like Major League Sports, for whether it be through Sac Republic or through the Kings, neither of those two teams use TIF funds. So as far as I'm aware, and from what I was able to look into, TIF is kind of a way of a city banking on the future property value increase of an area with other business opportunities, business ventures, whether it be things like hotels, restaurants, bars, shops. But if they were to put something within the 50 acres of land that were bought up by Fulcrum Property Group, as they continue to get more revenue and drum up more business, assuming everything goes to plan, they have their base property tax margin rate, and it's set in stone. It can't be adjusted, but any like potential future appraisal as time goes on and they drum up more business, that percentage increase gets taxed, and that money goes towards a dedicated fund that's, I believe, monitored either by the city council or a designated board for the TIF, and that money gets reinvested back into the city through things like utility, paying off the TIF fund itself, also going towards things like transportation, public services, i.e., right, the freeway entrance is right next to the stadium. They could be using some of those TIF funds to help pay for adding on a new on-ramp and off-ramp to make it more accessible to get into the stadium.
So is it kind of a loan? And like a future loan?
Somewhat, yeah, but it's a little bit more contingent upon the success of the businesses within the area. It's not super black and white in terms of, oh, this is inherently an evil business practice for getting land, or, oh, this is a very good practice. But what is promising about it is that there's not a lot of urban areas around in terms of housing, other than the apartments that were built there, which are also owned by Fulcrum Investment and Property. They're also building that hotel just across from where Drake's Barn is. So they're putting a good amount of money into it, and they're not going to have to relocate a whole bunch of people. So from an ethical standpoint, they chose a good area to invest and put money into.
Yeah.
So in terms of TIF, as we mentioned earlier a little bit, I believe, supposedly they're going to be designating over $800 million of that TIF fund to go into the development of the new land. Now, what's interesting is, according to the Sacramento pitch, the group largely responsible for the redesigning and the reconstruction of the multiple different districts surrounding the ballpark, is they're projected to generate roughly $1.7 billion in revenue for the city of Sacramento. Now, the problem that I see with TIF, or an area that could become an issue, is if there's not enough revenue that's drummed up for it, and a lot of the money is left to the Sacramento taxpayer to pick up and foot the rest of the bill, or it would make it more difficult for some of the smaller businesses within the area to succeed, assuming they don't get the foot traffic necessary. So I like TIF from what I've read about it, just in terms of how they're financing the stadium.
Yeah.
Because they're not outright putting an entire tax on the city of Sacramento and telling them, hey, we're going to leave you like $500 or $600 million worth of debt. Go pay for this so we can give you a major league team. It is more contingent upon the success of both whatever team comes here and the businesses that set up in the area. It is more up in the air in terms of secure financing, which may be why they could be having some trouble in finding somebody that will share and put forward a large amount of money to take on the project and become the majority owner of the team that sets up in Sacramento. But in a city council meeting back in 2023, they talked a little bit about how they would be designating more amounts of money to go into city municipalities, whether it be through public plumbing or public services such as buses, transportation, bike lanes, walkways, pathways, and just more investment into the city. So it provides other avenues of relief for people to get in and out of the city.
Yeah.
So on paper, that's good. But if you're a Sacramento resident and you've been living here for a long time,
Yeah.
you're aware of how difficult it is to get in and out of the stadium. I think you can speak a little bit about that too.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to like 14 A's games this year alone, and it's easier for me because I'm local and I can walk there and stuff. But even like leaving work in a ride share and you have to drive through that area because the ride share is going to pick up somebody coming from the game, it's just they throw you into a loop around the stadium just to go to somebody else, and then they can get picked up, and you have to finish the loop just to get back out. And if you're lucky, it'll be your turn to turn. Sometimes they just throw you into the loop again.
Yeah.
So they're constantly looping cars sometimes, and if you get stuck in that, it's difficult. It also depends really on who's working traffic that night too, because there's some people who don't know what they're doing while working traffic, and you also have, for the lack of a better term, jackasses in cars who are like, it's my turn to turn here, and they just go and cut through everything, and it messes it all up. So I think it's very up in the air, especially just with A's games in general. It's a little okay because, let's break it to ourselves. We're not a great team right now. But when we play teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers, it made getting in and out impossible. But what I heard from a lot of Dodgers fans is actually it was a lot easier of a process than it was at Dodger Stadium. But I guess you're comparing bottom tier to mid tier there.
Yeah, and I don't think it helps necessarily for Dodger Stadium that it's on top of a hill. And in terms of city density, population, right, they might have the public transit infrastructure, but it's hard to get away from all that congestion.
Yeah.
And one of the things that concerns me a little bit about Sacramento expansion and then putting all the new businesses, the land, into the area is that it might congest it quite a bit from where it's already at. I mean, there's a residential area not too far down from where the stadium is. There's a giant parking lot spacing them out in between. But I believe the land that was bought up is going to be for mixed development. So they're going to be putting in new houses. We know for a fact that they're putting in a hotel, a waterfront hotel, and that's also going to be combined with mixed housing. So there's going to be a lot more urban density on top of the area already being fairly populated. And I just don't see there being enough avenues to leave the stadium in a comfortable manner outside of where it is now. So hopefully that's something that they work on and they use the TIF funds to sort of alleviate or at least make it more accessible for people in terms of entering the stadium, leaving the stadium, and having good, reliable means of public transit to get around. But on a side note, I want to pivot a little bit more in talking not so much about infrastructure, but ownership, which was a large conversation that me and you had kind of off camera, where we talked a little bit about potential suitors for the gig. And as I mentioned earlier, they were looking for a majority owner to come in. There seems to be two very probable options. At this point in time, if I'm an owner and I'm looking at Sacramento expansion, the things I'm taking into account are what funds do they have set aside now, how much money's been put into it, what is the accessibility in terms of people getting in and out of the stadium, and how much money can they capitalize on with what's available currently.
Yeah.
And the TIF does promise a lot of future ventures for businesses. It gives them more opportunity. It could be an enticing gig to be like, hey, we're going to have a stadium here, put in all these new businesses, as they did with the Kings area. Obviously, Tom Brady coming in, being one of the largest names, and putting a card shop not too far from where the Kings arena is, for those of you who haven't seen it. It's kind of a cool shop.
That is pretty cool.
But just strictly in terms of money, most of it is on the table. They are just missing out on a couple $100 million, which would be the majority owner, to put forward and take ownership of the team. Interestingly, Friedman, again the man responsible for the project, said that Kings River Cats owner Vivek Ranadive would be a limited participant in terms of being an investor for the project, but he wouldn't be a majority owner. So Kings fans rejoice.
Yeah, I'm a little
Everybody get
happy
up,
about
clap,
that.
and cheer. I was happy to hear that. Not that I think Ranadive is the worst owner in sports, but there definitely have been some decisions of his that I found a little bit questionable.
Yeah.
Whether it be the handling of the Mike Brown situation and how
Big one.
or what they've done with the Kings over the last 10 years,
Yep.
or even if you really want to get specific, probably over the last 15.
I mean, you can even talk about fumbling the beam team alone.
Yeah, it's a sore subject, though.
Yeah.
There's other things in this episode that we have to cover that are already difficult enough as is.
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, back in 2012, Randive did try to move the Kings back to, I believe, Seattle for a relocation. Mm-hmm. But, that's neither here nor there. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with the decision or not. But needless to say, I was very relieved to hear that Randive would not be a suitor for majority owner of the team. What I did find interesting was that Joe Lacob, who was bidding for the Padres and lost out, I can't remember what family bought the Padres.
I don't remember exactly the family, yeah. But he's also been bidding on multiple MLB teams.
Yeah, Joe Lacob's been bidding, I think, even since we were trying to relocate from Oakland.
Yeah, no, he was big on keeping the A's in Oakland and Howard Terminal and everything like that. They were not far off on a bid at all. Lacob had good enough of a bid to where the team should have been sold. But Fisher, at that point, the public didn't know it, but he was already set on going to Vegas. And we didn't know it at the time.
In terms of talking about Joe Lacob, though, I think there's a lot of promise with that. I know he's done work with the Warriors. I believe he was the one that was responsible for their relocation, but also was responsible for helping kind of construct the team and having a vast majority of oversight over personnel decisions and just managing them well. I mean, the Warriors have had good, sustained success over the last 15 years. So to see somebody with that much care and attention attempting, or at least being a potential suitor for ownership in terms of Sacramento's expansion team, I'm all for it. Barry Broom, the president and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Economic Council, also one of the front team members of the Sacramento Pitch, said that if another group were to come in with roughly $4.5 billion and were to put it up themselves, then they would have no issue with handing over the investment, the rights, and the land to that group to ensure that development goes all the way through and that we get a major league team. And for me, of the two outcomes that I would hope to happen, this is definitely the lesser of the two. I find there being a sole owner more enticing as a fan, aside from just being a traditionalist in the sense of, I want there to be a face responsible for whether the team is successful or not, in which we would get with Joe Lacob or potentially somebody else if they were to bid for the team. I do have a bit of an issue of how the money is being spent and being allocated if there's not a sole proprietorial owner of the team.
Yeah, because where does that leave the fan base to look?
Yeah.
If things aren't going right, we're just going to start blaming coaching staff in the front office or even the GM. And at a certain point, at least with an owner, fan bases can just rally around, booing the owner, sell the team chants and stuff like that. But if it's just a group of suits that are unnamed, it's really the fallout is on the GMs and the front offices and the coaches, and I think that's unnecessary weight to put on the team there.
Yeah, and I think we see that right now with, even though Fisher is currently the owner of the team, and what that pushback would look like in how we fired Scott Emerson and the handling of Mark Kotsay with this year. Just in terms of the public aspect and how media has been approaching Emerson, Kotsay, Crosby, other members of the coaching staff or the players, it creates a lot more difficulty in terms of helping the players and the staff feel comfortable enough to execute their job at a high level, which I think is a good segue for us to kind of move away from the Sacramento topic in terms of, yes, there is a lot of promise that comes with us getting an expansion team. I think if it's done right and it's handled well, and executed to a T or very close to it, the city of Sacramento will reward that in terms of showing up to games, being loyal fans within the next 5 or 10 years. Because a very famous quote in sports is that, winning cures all. Mm-hmm. And if it's handled well, if it's done correctly, and we win games, or at bare minimum are competitive or above 500, or I would even venture to say at 500,
Yeah.
I think we could grow a good, reliable fan base in the city that supports the team. But currently, I think we're having a little bit of trouble with that. And you could point to a number of different reasons, but the A's relocation to Sacramento, how players and staff have felt about it, and how it's been maneuvered, I think is a subtle way of foreshadowing what could happen, assuming the move doesn't go well and the expansion doesn't go well. So,
Yeah, I mean, every A's game is an away game. Every home game is an away game. It doesn't matter who we're playing. Cardinals felt like an away game, especially Dodgers and Yankees. It felt like an away game. And as a diehard A's fan, why am I at home games, even if it's not our true home, and I'm in an uncomfortable environment now?
yeah.
I'm at a Yankee game, I'm surrounded by Yankees fans, and all we're hearing is cheering for the Yankees, booing for the A's, and not to throw my little brother under the bus, but he's tearing up on the side, just like, the product on the field, we're watching guys commit infield errors, and that's when me and him were both breaking down because now we're just surrounded by Yankees fans. So I want to give a little shout out to all the A's fans that are still suffering through that. Going to games, being surrounded by opposing team fans. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to ignore either, I think, just from a pure A's fan standpoint. Something that doesn't really get talked about when a team's moving or relocating, especially given our location, right? We're in Central California, so we're almost smack dab in the middle of the state. Mm-hmm. The Angels play here, the Dodgers play here, the Giants play here, and we play here. But considering that there's such a large fan base of both Dodgers and Giants fans in the city, especially with San Francisco being 2 hours away, and granted, Dodger Stadium's a little bit farther away, but they've been winning for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So they have a good resume to show for it. And naturally, people are going to gravitate towards teams that win.
Yep.
And if we don't have a good record and we don't have good support as a team, whether that be through how well we're playing, how the move was navigated, or how they came to Sacramento in the first place, there's going to be some form of disconnect that can't be ignored with fans. So, segueing away from Sacramento expansion, as promising as it is, I want to talk a little bit more about the A's, obviously because me and you are both big fans. You've been watching a lot longer than I have, but
Yeah, it's been a long time.
there's a lot of history for that between the two of us. And in terms of seeing the relocation and how that's affected the players and the staff and the personnel, the product on the field has been lackluster and hasn't lived up to what I think it should be. I'll let him pour his Coors Light, and I'll go a little bit on more of a tangent, but it's been very frustrating to watch. In terms of pitching, I believe there's about a 2 ERA difference between the two of them together. In terms of road and away splits, the offense has been shifting back and forth, and kind of that pendulum performance, whether it be through pitching or offense, the same woes that we had last year have come up again. But I believe this year are more pronounced, aside from just injuries, but because of extenuating circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I take it into account for me every single season. At the beginning of the year, I'm like, regardless of the record, I'm going to face the storm and I'm going to watch because one day this team's going to be really good. And I don't want to be one of those guys that has nothing to say about when they weren't good.
Yeah.
So I took account of the record by month, and my biggest issue with this team right now is, other than the offense being putrid at the current moment, underperforming, is the runs scored and the runs allowed by month. So we have record by month, starting in April.
Yeah.
Okay, 16-11. That's a good month.
Yeah.
I mean, we start the season 1-4 in March, which is okay because we open against the American League champions.
Yeah.
And those were all competitive games up until the end. I mean, you had Shea Langoliers hit a grand slam. I think he maybe had 12 RBIs alone in that series.
Yeah.
And then you come into April, we score 115 runs, we allow 114, closer to a 500 record, but we're 16-11. We're squeezing out some games. We were only blown out 2 times in April. It came against Houston, 11-0 on April 4th, and Texas, 1-8, April 13th. Jump over to May. This was a big month for us. If you guys don't remember last year, we were on a 1-22 record in May. Split down the middle. I think it was a 12-game losing streak. Then we beat Philly at home. and then we go on another 12-game losing streak. And I do want to mention, that's not even against the players, man. You played those 22 games over again, those 23 games. Nobody's doing that same record. It was a horrible unluckiness. So May this year, an 11-17 record wasn't that bad. I was proud of that. My goal for this team is to be 500 by the deadline. We're not getting there. But, so runs scored, 121. Runs allowed, 150. Blowouts, 5 or 6, depending on how you count them. We have a Cleveland 14-6 blowout, a Giants 10-1 blowout, and then Seattle took a 9-2 blowout, 8-1 blowout, Yankees 8-2, and then asterisks on this one, 13-8. I don't necessarily count that as too bad of a blowout. We did put up 8 runs, but I wanted to use that game as a talking point to where this offense isn't bad. But when you're putting up 8 runs and it's not enough to win a ball game,
Yeah, there's an issue.
there's an issue. June, another big month for this team. This is really a season killer sometimes for us if we can't get at a June rate. 12-15, 3 games below. That's not bad. But the runs scored and runs allowed here is what really starts to show what's going on with this team, because month to month it has gotten worse in the runs allowed department.
Yeah.
So this month we scored 142 runs and we allowed 173.
Yeah, that's a shit ton.
5 total blowouts, 13-2, 29-8, or 23-9. I do want to mention the 23-9 is in Las Vegas. Everybody knows how that went.
Yeah. Oh, man, there's so much offense that series. It was exciting to watch at 11 o'clock at night. I'm screaming at my phone because players are hitting fucking back-to-back home runs, RBIs out the ass, and there's so much going on.
That was a really fun series. And then we lose 12-4 against the Pirates, which we were at. 7-0 against the Angels, embarrassing. And then 9-3 against the Dodgers. That brings us to July. This is where I really want to harp on with how actually scared I am right now with this season. And I think all A's fans should be scared. July, we're 1-9. We've scored 28 runs, and we've already allowed 69 runs.
That's so bad.
That's nearly under half of what we already gave up in June.
Yeah.
And we've already been blown out 4 times in this month.
Yeah.
June 5 times, the other months 5 times. I'll take a blowout here and there. You can't control when another team's on. But 4 blowouts in 10 games? I mean, we're riding a 9-game losing streak now. We won 1 game in July and then 9 straight losses. And the blowouts were to Miami, 12-5.
Yeah.
Miami again, 7-2, on the 4th of July, mind you. Chicago, which is this last series that we just got off of, which an abysmal way to enter the break. 14-1, and then 2 days later, 9-1. So now we're entering the All-Star break on a 9-game losing streak.
Yeah, and there's kind of something that's been sitting with me for a little bit that me and you talked about off camera a couple of times, but I think it's worth mentioning, and that's the environment at the ballpark. Me and you both went to the Dodgers series. We were sitting in 2 different sections. Thankfully, to work, I was able to sit in one of the suites, and you were sitting on the outfield grass, but the fact remained that it looked like a Dodger home game. And
Yeah.
I vaguely remember Dave Roberts mentioning a little bit that the fans in Sacramento were very welcoming of the Dodgers, and that it had, I think, verbatim quoted saying that it felt like a Dodger home game.
Yeah.
And if you're an A's fan, I mean, you can say 100%, it felt like I was in Dodger Stadium. And it was frustrating and humiliating from a fan standpoint because any attempt at getting a chant going or during the Dodgers were immediately met by retaliation in terms of chants, in terms of engagement with the fans, in terms of the people sitting next to me. And aside from the humiliation that comes from that, I mean, we don't just feel that, right? As fans, you might get frustrated, but if you're a player, it's emphasized fourfold, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're pitching on the mound. You're already in a hitter-friendly ballpark. You're already in an environment that feels hostile, and you're compounding all of those issues with some form of frustration of playing in the stadium that they're at, and there not being enough consistency, whether that be with player development, whether it be with player performance or whether it be with how the offense is performing, regardless of how you shape it or regardless of how you talk about it, it's undeniable that the players are getting frustrated with playing in the ballpark
Yeah.
and they're having difficulty adapting to the environment and not having the support of the fans.
Well, 100%. I want to bring up a thing Trevor May was talking about, which was with the recent poll that happened with MLB players voting against organizations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Really, the only knock on the A's as an organization was the fact they play in Sutter Health Park.
Yeah.
A lot of players said recently they've been getting a lot better at meeting with you after the game, telling you what they want out of you. They're a lot more hands-on than they used to be. So I really think this whole Sacramento thing in a minor league ballpark is a big blunder on what this franchise should be right now. We are behind schedule when it comes to how the A's rebuild.
Yeah.
It takes us 3 years. As an A's fan, I've watched 3 rebuilds now. We suck for 3 years. We draft very well, and then we develop a lot of guys. We always pick up some random waiver wire guy. This time around, it's Brent Rooker,
Carlos Cortez as well.
Before that, it was in the Rule 5 draft, Mark Canna. Before that, there's other guys. So right now, we should be at the time where this should be our 2018-2019 season,
Yeah.
where we're going to surprise everybody and win 97 games. We can't do that now.
Yeah.
You can't do that in Sutter Health Park because the pitching is so behind. Right now, at home, we have a 6.37 ERA.
Yeah.
On the road, a 4.09. On the road, this staff is league average.
It's competent. Yeah. At bare minimum,
competent.
it's competent.
It's a good enough staff. And then you have the extreme opposite with offense. At home, 801 OPS. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That might be the best home OPS in the league.
Yeah. Probably up there with the Rockies as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, if this team played in Colorado.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it'd be better or worse, but it would definitely be a lot more interesting than what it is now.
You know, I think it'd be a lot better because Sutter Health Park, not to go on too much of a tangent here, give me a few seconds. Sutter Health Park is the same launch pad as Colorado is almost, but the issue is Colorado built the stadium to be a launch pad.
Yeah.
The outfield is big, the infield is big, everything is big there. It's not big in Sutter Health Park.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that would be flyouts in Colorado are, unfortunately, 3-run jacks
Yeah.
there. So, but the offense, to get back on track there, 801 OPS at home, 622 OPS on the road.
Yeah, not to harass the players too much, but I mean it's an abysmal number. And it's difficult. And again, like we were saying earlier, the product on the field has gotten to a point where it can't be ignored. And, you know, the extenuating circumstances are difficult. I know me and you have both voiced that we thought it would have been better if they had stayed in Oakland or stayed in a more suitable major league stadium. Not that we aren't grateful that we get to watch A's games, but it's purely from a fan point, right? It's frustrating to watch the product of a team that you've been watching for so long put out bad performance, right?
Yeah, well, and for me, this isn't me majorly blaming the players, because if we're in Oakland doing this, it'd be a whole different thing. But it's right now, for my vision on how this team's offense is, since I watch every game or listen to every game, is before we were losing this badly, the games were like 14-8, 12-5, 12-7. You had 10-7 games. Our offense was putting up 5+ runs a game. We were competitive, but we blew 24 total leads. We were blowing games, and that's just you can't be doing that. Initially was a big issue with the bullpen.
Yeah.
It was, okay, the A's have a lead, bullpen blows it, and that's just, something you could fix later. But now it's become, there's no momentum on offense. There's no more momentum, and I want to give praise to Mark Kotze for this, because as a manager, I think we're asking a lot of him.
Yeah.
He's entering year 4 of a manager, 2 years in Oakland, now he's in his second year in Sutter Health Park. The poor guy has to give his post-game interviews in a steel thing, you know, like I don't want to harp too much on that, but that's part of the embarrassment, though.
A Home Depot shed, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a Home Depot shed. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to call it like I see it. That is a Home Depot shed. And he's saying, you know, in the first inning of games, our pitching staff were giving up 5 runs, and the offense is already hanging their heads.
Yeah.
And you can't blame them now.
No.
It's not fun to come up to bat, and you're like, well, we got 8 runs to catch up on in the first inning.
Yeah. And, thankfully from that, what is it? I believe we've had 23 come from behind wins. So
Yeah.
it's not entirely the fact of, oh, the offense is floundering all the time. I mean, the offense can show up and the offense is there, but purely in terms of pitching, I mean, we've seen a carousel with the bullpen. There's so many guys that have been hurt, that have been called up, that have been sent down for a variety of different reasons. I mean, one of the ones that comes to mind, I know he's not performing quite as well, but Joe Kunal, after his poor performance against, who was it after we cut him? I can't
I
remember.
forgot who he was against, but we cut him and immediately a pitching farm picked him up.
Yeah, of course it was the Brewers, and then the second he left our organization, he starts throwing over 100 miles per hour. Granted, I think he's at above a 4 or 5 ERA at this point now.
Yeah, he's not getting the results, but the mechanics look better.
Yeah, he does. His delivery is cleaner. He throws harder. He throws faster. There's a lot more availability for raking or taking advantage of the talent that he's put out. And, this kind of ties a little bit back into the firing of Scott Emerson. And I think Dallas Braden put out a video about it on his Instagram, and I think he surmised it really well.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of quotes for it.
Sometimes a change is necessary, and I fully agree with that, but I don't believe we should have let go of Scott Emerson. I think at bare minimum, he should have been sent down to AA or AAA, give somebody else a different chance, maybe let them take a different look at it. But the fact that they're asking these guys to change environments constantly, to play in a hitter-friendly ballpark, to play in a place that's at sea level where their pitches break completely different, you're changing the profile of your staff constantly to meet the needs of where you're at. And if you don't have a good home environment that supports that, not just through the fans, but in terms of your mechanics, your delivery, how you're performing at the field, all of those things take into account how a player performs on a day-to-day basis. And that lack of consistency or those constant tweaks sets guys up for failure. And I think that also set up Scott Emerson for failure. And something that me and you also touched on a little bit is that sets up guys like Emerson, Kotze, and various other members of the staff to fall on the sword when they're given a really tough challenge.
I don't think they're given the patience that they deserve for it. As a fan, you can be like, "Oh, our pitching coach sucks. We suck at home." But when you really get into the details of it, you're asking these guys, for a simple metaphor here, to work 8 hours in a freezer and then go work 8 hours in the sun in the same day.
Yeah.
It's such a change in environment. I really believe this same team in Oakland would be above 500 right now.
Yeah.
We have a soft tossing lefty in Jeffrey Springs, who should have a high 3 ERA to a low 4. Instead, he leads the league in home runs allowed.
Yeah.
That's not the type of guy he is either. And then this team also, this ballpark is 20 points favoring hitters, 28 points against favoring pitchers.
Yeah.
In one season. So you bring in a guy like Severino, who's supposed to be the king of the staff now, and of course he's unhappy and struggling.
Yeah. The environment's not suited for them.
It's not at all. And again, it's also a ballpark where another minor league team's playing there when you're not.
Yeah. And something else that I kind of want to touch on a little bit more is not that the A's are drafting right now for performing in Sacramento and pitching in Sacramento, but if any of this is a taste of what it's going to look like when we move to Vegas, the personnel decisions are going to have to change again. And that just adds another layer of complexity on top of how they're trying to develop players right now. Because on one hand, they have to prepare for the immediate. They do want a hard-tossing lefty. They do want somebody who has high strikeout stuff, or at bare minimum is a very, very, very weak contact hitter. Because anything hitting this ballpark, especially to right field where the fence is short, it's more likely to go out.
100%.
So you have to prepare for the immediate. You have to get guys ready for the now. And Jamie Arnold, right? Another hard-tossing lefty we have, high strikeout guy. Gage Jump, who we called up this year, who's been performing great and has been very fun to watch. Those guys are exciting, but they throw gas. And we played in a stadium for years where that wasn't something that was necessary. So it puts us in a really difficult position in terms of how are we setting this team up now where we want them to win, we want them to succeed, but we don't have the right tools. And that leaves a bad impression on the Sacramento fans and the Vegas fans. And I think that's going to create a bigger disconnect between the product on the field now compared to when we moved to Vegas.
Yeah, so one of my things with the pitching staff and everything, too, is nobody wants to come pitch, nobody wants to come play for us.
Yeah.
When you look at, guys like the Rays and stuff like that, players are like, okay, I'm going to go there, I'm going to get better, but I'm not going to stay here. Guys want to stay somewhere. You go to Oakland or Sacramento now, you go to the A's, and you're like, I'm not going to get better here with the help of the team initially, with development and stuff, but I'm going to get the playing time.
Yeah.
And if I could figure it out, I'm going to figure it out here.
Yep.
Like Brent Rooker, for example. That guy was always going to be good. He just needed a place to have playing time.
Yeah.
And I think we're misunderstanding why the A's are able to get these reclamation projects and have them be good. Because I don't fully believe it's our development capabilities. I think it's because we're a place where you're going to be in a low pressure environment to perform, and you're going to get your playing time.
Yeah. And I know that's something that player polls have talked about, right? A little bit like we mentioned earlier, the organization doing a much better job. Not having that sort of pressure or having that backing from a diehard fan base like they had in Oakland and now coming to Sacramento, you cut off some of the appeal of that. And
Yeah.
again, as we've talked about time and time again in this episode, the disconnect between the fans and the team is hard to ignore. A lot of the fans that I see that go to games will have a Giants jersey on, or then they'll have an A's hat, or they'll have a Yankees hat, but they'll be wearing a Sacramento A's jersey. So teams have, or people who are fans of other teams have their primary team, but they treat Sacramento as a rental. And when you combine those two things together, it creates less of a desirable environment for players, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you couple that with the fact of they're playing in Sacramento, they're playing in an area where it's hard to pitch, and now you're taking away the pressure because you have other teams' fans coming into the stadium every single time, crowding it up and starting chants against the home team, it adds more to an already difficult situation, and that puts more pressure on the pitching staff to develop players and get them ready, makes them take different approaches, and it just gives different layers of challenges that the team doesn't need right now.
Yeah. And I don't want to be one of those guys that blames players. This is an uncomfortable situation for them. But how bad the pitching staff has been getting results has now burnt out the offense. So I took some notes. Right
Yeah.
now, we have a 99 WRC plus as a team, which is actually a lot better for this unit than I thought it would be. We brought in guys like Jeff McNeil to help with the average issues, and he hasn't. We have Rooker back this season, and then he's hurt, and he's out for the year. Jacob Wilson's been hurt multiple times. Max Muncy started hot, was hurt, hasn't been great, sent back down to AAA.
Yeah.
Geloff has had, 5, 6 IL stints?
Yeah.
Which, again, aren't his fault. He plays the game hard, and I love that about him. And then you have guys like Soderstrom, who took so long to start. And then, Denzel Clark, who is our exciting outfielder, who really helped this pitching staff. He's been on the IL since, week 2 of the season.
Yep.
And then Lawrence Butler, who's now struggling, and there's so many different ways I can talk about Butler, because I have so many mixed emotions. I love Butler as a player. He is honestly one of my favorite players in the league. He has emotion. He has talent. I love the way he talks about the game.
Yeah.
I think people underestimate his baseball IQ so much because the way he handles himself on the field. And real quick, I just want to take a quote from him. What he said was, on A's Cast, he's like, I know people are mad at me because I'm throwing fits on the field or something like that. But that's my emotion. That shows I care. And I believe fully that Butler does care. And that's why we see him sulking and him pouting sometimes. Because he cares. He knows he's better than this, and he's just struggling. So this offense is performing a little bit below average. 99 is 1 point below league average. But for our WRC Plus last year, it was 101 at this date, which means we were a little bit more better. And that is with, again, Rooker in the lineup every day. That's with Wilson fighting for Rookie of the Year. That's with Kurtz fighting for Rookie of the Year. That's with a much better offense, and the fact that we're only 2 points below that, that's kind of impressive for this offense.
It is, and especially when you take into fact, I know we mentioned earlier the pitching carousel, but the offensive carousel. I mean,
100%.
Henry Bolte getting called up, Alika Williams getting playing time, JKG making his debut.
Yeah.
There's so many different guys that have swapped in and out of the lineup. I can't remember the last time we've had a consistent lineup other than within the first 2 months of the season.
I mean, we brought Jonah Heim back.
Yeah, that was something I don't think either of us saw coming, but I was very fortunate and I was very happy to bank on that hopefully something good would come of it. And needless to say, whether it be through his performance offensively, the catching duties and taking some strain off of Shane Langoliers, or his playing time at first base with Nick Kurtz out right now.
Yeah.
He's been very promising, and he's been one of the bright spots on the offense, which sounds good, but then not to discredit any of the work that Jonah Heim has done, but him being one of the standout players on the offense right now, given the amount of talent that we have, just speaks to the amount of injuries that we've had as a team and the struggles that we're going through right now.
It 100% does. Again, you said the infield carousel, and that's big for me. We've had Geloff out. We've had Muncy out. But another point is just giving playing time to guys. Alika Williams was a top prospect for a while.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be very good, spent time with the Pirates organization before he came to us, was a top prospect with the Rays behind a certain shortstop. And
He
that's
will not be named.
he will not be named, and that's how he lost his playing time. But Alika comes over to us, and he's taking the duty well. He comes up, plays pretty good glove,
Yeah.
and his bat's pretty solid. So I'm proud of what this offense has been able to face up until this point. I know we're a second half team. I'm just concerned with the fact that we haven't, they limped, but crawled into the All-Star break is what I'm scared of. We're crawling into the All-Star break. Kurtz is hurt. I'm hoping he's going to take time off during this All-Star break. What we need to do now is just hope that in the second half, the offense is just so much better than what the pitching staff can pull them down to, that we're able to squeeze out a few more wins. I mean, this is a division that unfortunately is bad. We could almost win the division if we had the staff.
Yeah, we could very well take the reins.
And I don't want to say have the staff, but if we had the location of playing baseball.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's kind of been one of the running consistent themes throughout our conversation and throughout the relocation process. Is just the players being displaced, the fans being displaced has created sort of, or I wouldn't even say created, but it opened Pandora's box of, in terms of Murphy's Law and all that can go bad will go bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we thought the 2007 Mets collapse was difficult to watch, especially at the end of the year, where they rattle off like a 10-game losing streak and it kicked them out the playoffs. I mean, we're fighting for first place in the division, and we fire off so many losses and runs allowed over the last month and a half that now we're even wondering if we're going to be able to take the spot in the first place. And it's difficult to watch.
It's a collapse. It's very early, but it is definitely a collapse because you were holding first place and you were fending off the Astros, you're fending off the Mariners. And what I was hoping is this team would squeeze out so many wins early that if we fall to second or third, it'd be easier to keep those positions.
Yeah.
But now we've lost so much, we're down to fourth, and now the Rangers are getting a little better. The Mariners have gotten healthy. They're getting a little better. We don't know what they could do in the second half.
And their pitching rotation right now is crazy.
It's way better than ours.
Yeah.
And then you even have Houston, who has potentially the American League MVP.
Yeah.
So where does that leave us? Fourth place A's again? Well, of course, we're going to finish above the Angels.
Yeah.
But that just, it leaves a lot to be desired that now we're entering the second half, and I think we're going to have another great second half, but finish with 77 wins and 80-something losses, and here we are looking out again like, oh, if they could just get one or two more arms. And that's a nice segue into me saying, we're not going to spend money still. I will say it's been such a nice, fresh, something fresh with this team is the fact that we have extended Soderstrom, we extended Wilson, we extended Rooker, Butler's even on an extension, and now we're just waiting for the Kurtz and Jump extensions. It's been nice that we've had those, but bringing in new talent to this team has been a lot more difficult than I think they thought it would be. And they haven't been able to bring in anything. And I mean, coming into this season, we brought in Scott Barlow, who is not on the team anymore, by the way.
Yeah.
And Mark Leader Jr., who has a 5 or 6 ERA and is hurt. So that's what you bring into this bullpen. It doesn't work. So it's a lot of fans like, oh, they just need to sign more arms. How is my answer to that?
Yeah. And I think also if you take a look at some of the moves that were made earlier, I mean, Tyler Ferguson, one of the guys that we cut from the bullpen, made his way on over to Chicago and is still performing at a major league level, right? I believe he's under a 5 ERA right now.
The last time I checked, I think it was a little bit of a 4, but that's still a depth piece that is you need arms.
Yeah, especially with the amount of injuries that we've had with the starting rotation and the work that they've done with Jack Perkins and splitting him between the bullpen and a starting role. Having that flexibility still provides a level of relief on the starters and the relievers that's necessary. Mm-hmm. And them cutting him just didn't feel like the best decision in the world to me. And granted, we may not know everything about that.
It's true.
We don't know what they asked of him. But outside looking in, the decision-making on every level is hard not to look at and go, okay, well, I would like my team to do well. These are things that I'd hope that they'd take care of. But with no noise around the trade deadline for us making any moves, for us not being potential buyers, mm-hmm. and then, flipping it on its head and looking at a different division, looking at what the Marlins are putting in at the deadline and what they're
100%, dude.
hoping to move, it feels like if we were to even put some form of money or prospects on the line in exchange for arm talent, we could push ourselves up to at least be competitive. And then maybe if we rattle off that win streak like we did last year,
Yeah.
potentially sneak our way into a wild card spot.
So our only move selling wise right now for the A's is Shea Langoliers. We can't really buy at the deadline unless we get competitive towards the end of the month of July. But like I said, we're 1-9 already. We've already been blown out 4 times. It's not looking that way. So selling wise, the A's are probably going to make a tough decision. If they can't reach an extension with Shea or think that they can afford him in arbitration, they're probably going to sell him off.
Yeah.
Which is scary. I mean, July is always a scary time as an A's fan unless you're competitive.
Yeah. And I think that speaks a little bit, too, to the situation that they have right now with Jonah Heim, especially with Shea being out. They've put a lot of investment into making him a more prominent locker room leader. I mean, you see how he's meshed with the guys. He's done well with the pitching staff. He brings a championship pedigree coming from the Rangers, winning that World Series. Was it 2022, 2023? 23. So it's not that it's a lack of resume that's an issue, but Shea is such a prominent leader to that locker room. He's been with the organization since we made that trade. Who did we get rid of for him? Olsen, that's right. So purely in terms of the amount of work that he's done with the pitching staff over the last 5 years, it's hard to ignore.
It is. I don't want to see him go. I know it was more acceptable to see a guy like Miller go because, sure, it's a closer. It was nice to have an elite closer like that. But what is an elite closer going to do when we're not even scoring enough runs? And he's struggling at Sacramento, too.
Yeah.
So that also shows you how bad of a ballpark that is for pitchers if a guy like Miller's struggling there.
Yeah.
But now we're entering the deadline. We're probably going to be sellers unless something crazy happens. It just sucks because I don't want to be waking up every day looking at my phone like, is this the day? Is this the day? Is Shea gone? Is Shea gone? We know that they're not afraid to trade guys with team control.
Yep.
But my issue here is Shea is the heart and soul of this team.
Yeah.
I would have to say that. I know he's not on bases often, but he has such a good relationship with everybody. You can see the way the guys rally around him in the locker or in the dugout, especially when he's the one hitting home runs. He's the main guy on this team. I think he's the longest tenured A now. I'm trying to think of anybody else that could be there, but it's Shea.
It's Shea.
It's Shea right before Rooker, or right before, it's Shea, and then Rooker, and then Butler.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I think that speaks just to the amount of turnover that we've had just this year, especially with the infield carousel. I mean, the amount of talent that we've brought in and out this year, the amount of prospects that we have in the system. We have a very large abundance of talent in the infield that we could maybe move around somewhere, but by the same token, we have so many questions about future mainstays, whether it be at third base, like with you mentioned with Max Muncy, or what they're doing with JKG right now at second base, kind of showing in for Jeff McNeil, and not to disparage McNeil, but kind of with his underperformance this year and the lack of consistency in the lineup that we hoped he would bring, which he did give us very early on in the season when the whole team was hitting well, but when your team's playing bad, you need a guy who's hitting about 270, 280 to consistently help turn the lineup over, and he's just not been delivering on that.
No, the whole reason we brought him in was to be a second leadoff man in the 9-hole and a veteran on the team. And I don't want to be against McNeil at all because he is showing emotion, and that's what I care about. If a guy like McNeil is struggling, and I'm not seeing anything out of him, especially anger or frustration, then I'm worried.
Yeah.
But he is angry. He is frustrated. I think he wants to be doing better. I think maybe moving off of a torpedo bat would help him out a lot. But he was supposed to be an anchor in the lineup, and he's not now. There's just so many question marks in the infield that I don't want to trade any of them away because we need to have it figured out before we move on from it.
Yeah.
The only infield positions figured out is shortstop and first.
Pretty much.
You know, Zach Geloff's a great utility man. Geloff should stay a utility man. Yeah. I think he's thrived in that role. Mm. You could put him anywhere in the outfield, and that man is going to play his ass off.
And he's become somewhat of a locker room guy just because he's so devoted to taking on different roles, different infield and outfield positions, and just with his bat alone. I mean, from his on-field presence and from what the product is that he puts out on a day-to-day basis, if I'm a younger guy who's coming up and I'm seeing the work that he's doing, I'm seeing that he's willing to learn all these defensive positions, he's willing to put in the time and the effort, that builds good culture in the locker room. And you want to keep that, especially when the team morale is low and you need guys to rally around when your mainstays aren't performing or aren't on the field because of injury.
100%. I think that's the issue, though, is the A's have a very difficult decision this deadline, and I genuinely think it's one that could set us back a few years.
Yeah.
We're ahead of schedule right now. We're not performing like it, but we are. And we have asked, I do want to give a shout out to the rookies we've called up. We've asked a lot of guys who are not ready for the majors yet, and they've performed.
Yeah, Gage jump, most notably to me.
Gage jump 100%. Joshua, I mean,
Yeah.
he was crushing. He was doing very good at AAA, but I think it was his first season in AAA.
Yeah.
So that's asking a lot of him to come up during the Dodger series, mind you.
Yeah, and he's had some incredible catches. He's played really well. His attitude's been great. He's taken it all in. He's took it in stride. And as nice as it is to see that, it's also concerning that that's what we have to rely on to keep ourselves afloat in the season. And to even say that we're afloat right now at this point in time is, I almost want to say, a disservice to what it actually looks like on the field.
I agree. I don't think we're fully afloat. I think this team is underperforming majorly. And I'm very scared that we're going to continue to crawl to the deadline like we've crawled into the All-Star break. And, I mean, this is the time to sell Shea anyways.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it, he's an all-star right now. He's one of the best catchers in the league. This is the time to do it. But even from, like, a business standpoint, when people get traded, it's just, oh, that's baseball. Business is business. I think it's a horrible move.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad move from a locker room standpoint for what he provides, but we know that he's a Scott Boras. Scott Boras is his agent. That's his guy, and he's going to be looking to get as much money as he can. And as much as I'm sure as Shea loves the guys in the locker room and that he loved it, especially when he was in Oakland,
Yeah.
getting an opportunity to play for a team that's more competitive, that has a better situation in terms of stability, like we talked a little bit about earlier too with Chris Bryant, and going to a team where he can get good family amenity, good living conditions, good locker room conditions, good team conditions, or even just above average or average, it would be hard to pass up on.
Yeah, and I don't want to say Shea's asking to be traded either. I know we're talking a lot about Shea being traded.
Yeah.
I'm more saying that's kind of the A's only option for another surprising splash like they had with Miller last year. You can't trade any. There's nobody else of value, really. You're not trading Springs. You're not trading Severino. You're not trading Colby Thomas. You're not trading Carlos Cortez. And I think if you trade anybody from the infield right now before having a solid mainstay at that position, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, we've been searching for a second baseman forever, even while the teams were good.
Yep.
I mean, the second baseman carousel in Oakland alone was insane. After, I think Mark Ellis was the mainstay for a while.
Yeah.
And then after that, we played Franklin Barreto a few times. Chad Pinder would go there a few times. Tony Kemp was really nice for a little while. And then, again, we're back to not having anybody consistently there. After Chapman, third base has been wide open. We've not had a consistent mainstay there. Shortstop, luckily we've recovered after losing Semien. I mean, we had Seth Smith there. I think it was Seth Smith or Kevin Smith. We had Kevin Smith there for a little bit. And now we finally have a solution there with Wilson, who's extended. I just don't... The last thing this team needs is another question mark on the field with who's going to play there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at least we have the outfield, decided. Bolte, Soderstrom, Butler, Rooker, when he comes back healthy, is a big question mark. But if he comes back the same guy, too.
I'd still think there could be some value for him, but that doesn't answer the questions on the now.
No, it doesn't.
Right, and I'd like to see Rooker on this team. I love Rooker being an A. I've loved watching Rooker as an A. But there's question marks down the road, and there's question marks in the now. And how we handle that and how we've been handling this deadline in this year so far, I feel like it's being piled on more and more and more. We have more questions about who's playing at second base and third base, even for that day and for that game.
Yep.
Just the amount of turnover has been really, I hate to say frustrating again, because I don't want to get on guys for getting hurt. That's a part of the sport. It's part of the game. There's nothing you can do about it. But strictly in terms of a fan viewing standpoint, it's hard to find any trust or consistency in the lineup, and that's shown on the field.
I don't know. There's no consistency, and I think that's killing the team partially.
Yeah, and I hate to use the word gridlock, but especially at this deadline, I mean, that's where we're at. If there's no substantial moves that can be made other than ones that would completely change the entire course of the season, and I don't think for the better, I don't think there's any move that we could make that would immediately help the team and put us in a playoff spot if it meant getting rid of one of our best players on the team. Regardless of how he's performing now, it doesn't change the fact of the leadership qualities, his bat, the defense he provides. Taking away all of those things from a team when you're already struggling with consistency is really just pouring on and making it more of a difficult situation.
Especially a locker room leader.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, when we talk with Ryan Matthews about, too, having guys like Kurt Suzuki in the locker room that come in, give that level of comfort, stability. I mean, you have your favorite backstop.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of the guys on the team, as much as they love Jonah Heim and what he's done, them taking that away hurts. Not just from a moral standpoint of, oh, there's this guy that I love and me and him get along really well and he's a great catcher for me. But from a performance standpoint, you're losing out on somebody you trust a lot. Mm-hmm. And taking that out when we're already down and disadvantaged, I don't think provides us any relief. Even if we were to get, even this is absurd, even if we were to get like Tariq Skubal, I don't think the trade would be worth it.
No.
I don't think the money would be worth it. And I don't think the value that we'd have to give up for him would be worth it.
No, not,
so where does that
not
leave
for
us?
us.
Yeah, so where does it leave us?
We do gain Skubal, but then we lose our future.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
The only thing we can trade away from is outfield.
Yeah.
That's all we have depth at, but it's not anybody in AAA. It would have to be like a guy like Devin Taylor. Yeah. Again, yes, Skubal would be a crazy thing to get. I would obviously, regardless of what we gave up initially, be all, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, we're not extending him.
No, we're not. It'd be a rental.
It would be a rental. It'd be John Lester over again, where we give up the heart and soul of the team, Yoenis Cespedes.
Yeah.
And we get John Lester. Another situation where it's a lefty.
Yeah.
And what's going to come of that for us? I mean, I still think we win that game if we have Yoenis Cespedes.
Yeah.
So you can't trade away from somebody on the major league roster to buy, because unfortunately they're glued together and they're suffering. They're suffering together. I think they're doing it well while suffering together.
Yeah.
We're one of the only teams where you never hear about anything happening. Like, we don't have to deal with this Lindor and Soto stuff all the time, where two of your best players are apparently hating each other. We've never had to deal with that. The A's have always had such good locker rooms. I mean, the 2018 through 2021 team, they're still in a group chat together.
Yeah.
Montas, Semien, Olsen, Chapman, all of them are best buddies. They've all been to each other's weddings, even from being traded away.
Yep.
When none of them were even on the A's, except Montas, they were all still together. Chris Bassett's another one of those guys. We do cultivate good locker rooms, and I think trading away the glue guy right now for that would be pretty bad. But we don't have any reason to buy. We get Sonny Gray. Cool, we're going to ruin his ERA.
Yep.
He's not going to be Sonny Gray in Sacramento. Nobody is themselves in Sacramento unless they're a visiting team, because they're only playing there 1 or 2 times a year.
Yeah, and they don't have to make any minor adjustments. Again, like we talked about earlier with Emerson, or try different techniques to get outs because you're at the same ballpark 4 or 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
And you're throwing to the same players 3, 4, 5 days in a row. So it provides no advantage.
Yeah, visiting pitchers do well there because they don't need to change anything, because I'm only going to start 1 game here, and then I'll be back next month maybe.
Yep.
And they get to they're a lot more relaxed on the mound.
Yeah.
And they have their fan base there with them.
Yeah. So I just think overall right now, looking at the A's, excluding Sacramento expansion, I mean, there's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of things left up in the air, and as a fan, there's a lot for us to sit here and wonder about and hope at the deadline. I'd hate to say hope that nothing happens, but I'm kind of hoping that nothing does happen.
I hope we do nothing.
And I hope it's quiet. I hope I don't wake up to any notification on my phone about some, really terrible trade that we make, or really insane trade where we give up like a third of our prospects for somebody that may stay with us for a year or two. And regardless of how that looks, purely from a fan standpoint right now, I mean, I'm concerned, and I'm hoping the team's able to turn around. I know we're going to rattle off some wins after the All-Star break, as
100%.
we always do, especially like we did last year.
Yep.
So it's not that this team can't be competitive, but there's question marks as to what competitive looks like and how far that takes us.
Yeah, I just think right now, as A's fans, it's going to be a very difficult month, so buckle in.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very difficult month. Even if we win some games, the deadline's going to scare all of us. Pray we don't do anything stupid. And if we do, pray it's another trade where we're like, well, we're offered so much, we can't say no, like with Miller. that's just what I want. I want us to see. I want a really good second half. Finish the month of July at 500. Enter the deadline. Don't do anything really.
Yeah.
If we buy at the deadline, great. That's fine, depending on what we give up, as every other team would say.
Yeah.
But we're not a team that's a shoe-in or a for sure team heading to the playoffs. If I'm the Mariners buying at the deadline, I'm like, I don't care what we give up. We're going to the playoffs. We're trying to win a World Series this year. That's the goal. If we're just trying to sneak into the wild card or finish above 500, the goal should not be to buy big.
Yeah.
Maybe buy an arm that can, maybe get a Chris Bubich, somebody who can eat some innings for us, and maybe be pretty good. But again, I don't want to subject anybody to this ballpark.
Yeah. Especially
Pitching-wise.
Luis Castillo, although I doubt they'd make the trade within the division. But
Yeah.
somebody who sounds promising, but just given the location, given where we're at, and given with what we have right now, something like that's not an option unless we give up something big. And
Yeah.
they won't take catcher. They don't need catcher.
They don't.
So yeah, it's rough. I mean, at least we have the things to look forward to. Sacramento expansion, although that's a little bit later on down the line. Despite all of what we had said earlier and the conversations we had, that's something I'm looking forward to, and that's something that me and you will keep track of over the next couple of years. We'll be making videos on. We'll be putting stuff out about, whether it be reels, whether it be interviews, or talking to more public figures, which is something we hope to do, but aren't able to get around to right at the moment. So bear with us on that. We'll try and get something squared away, but just have to wait and see. It's baseball, man.
I'm kind of excited to be talking about the A's too. It'd be nice to check in again, maybe around September or after the deadline.
Yeah.
Just because that's when the move's gonna happen. It's almost like I'm waiting for like a new video game to come out, and I just want to be put in cryostasis until the deadline's over.
Yeah.
So I can wake up to it, because the days leading up to it are just gonna get more and more difficult. So, but it was really nice to talk about the A's.
Yeah.
That's my love in life, this baseball and the A's.
Yeah.
So even if we're not good right now, I still this means a lot to me to talk about them.
Yeah, it's something we can both, grieve and rejoice about in
Yeah.
another episode down the line. But like you said, we'll be checking back in sometime after the deadline, probably in the halfway point after the season's, or in the latter half of the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And then just before the season ends, and give you guys any more updates on Sacramento expansion and the A's. So with that being said, thank you guys for listening and have a good one.
Thank you.